My name is Jacob Worth. I am the education consultant with Promethean, specifically for you guys here at LCPS. So today I'm going to show you guys a little bit about the new Promethean panels that you have in your classrooms. We're going to talk about how to clean the panels, the accessories and wires that come with it, and how to connect your computers both wirelessly and hardwired. And then I will briefly go over the built-in apps that come on the panel itself. So to start, you'll notice that your panel gets smudged just like your phone might get smudged. And the way you want to handle that is wipe down the panel with a microfiber cloth. You don't want to use paper towels or anything too scratchy. And wipe that down and most of the smudges should come off. If anything's on there that's a little too sticky, you can spray your towel with some water, but just make sure you never spray anything directly onto the panel itself. For disinfecting, the district is distributing out wipes to the schools that have these new panels. So what you'll want to do is to disinfect, use the wipes to wipe down the panel and then dry it off with a microfiber cloth. Some of the things that come with your panel are the pen or the stylus, and this stylus is nothing too special. It's just a piece of plastic, but it'll make things a little bit easier to write with. But you can use this, you can really use anything to write on these new boards. So just to show you a little bit, I can write with this stylus here, I can write with my finger, I can write with a really cheap stylus, I can even write with something like a tennis ball. Basically anything will work on the panels, even like the back of a pencil, using the eraser part. You don't want to use anything too scratchy that might damage the panel. In addition to that, you can write with anything, and you can also write with up to 15 different things, because the panel has 15 points of continuous touch. So you can write with 2 fingers, you can have 2 people at the panel at the same time writing. You can write with 15, so all of your fingers and half your toes. But anything really writes on it, and you can write with a whole bunch of different things at the same time. If you want, instead of having students come and touch the panels with their fingers all the time, you can give them different things to write on the panels. So I bought a pack of these cheap stylus pens, and you can get 36 of them for 10 bucks, very cheap. Each student could have their own. When they come to the panel, they write with that, and you don't have to worry about having to disinfect everything. Your panel comes with a lot of different inputs. So I'm going to show you a few of the important ones. On the side of the panel over here, you've got a couple of inputs, HDMI inputs and USB touch. You've already got some things plugged into this right now. Every panel is going to come with a screen beam, so you can connect to these wirelessly, and your computer screen can show up on here. And these inputs, HDMI 2 and touch 2, are going to have that plugged into it, and that's going to come up in a little bit. Also down here, underneath, these inputs are facing the ground right now on the back of the panel, and you probably won't use these too much, but if you have like a document camera that has an old VGA hookup, there is an input for that. This is just really to show you that anything you want to connect, you probably can connect to the panels. There are also some inputs here on the front of your panel. You'll notice there's also an HDMI and a USB touch here. This is where you'll plug in if you want to hardwire your computer to the monitor. There are also some buttons that come on the panel. You've got a power button. You can just press the power button once and it will put the board to sleep. If you press and hold, it'll turn it off. There's a little flame button here that will bring up the unified menu, which we're going to go over in a bit. You also have some volume buttons, volume up and down, because sound, once you're sharing your screen from your computer with the panel, the sound that would be playing on your computer should come through the panel itself. And you also have a source button, and this is going to be important because you're going to have to change sources to go from when you turn the panel on to connecting to your computer. But we're going to go over that in a sec. You also will get a remote that comes with your panel. The remote, lots of the buttons have the same functions that you can get on the panel itself, but there are a couple things on the remote that you want to use that you can't directly do on the panel, and that is the blackout screen, which is this little square with an X in it, and the snowflake, which is a freeze button. So these functions will either black out the screen or freeze the screen for anyone that's viewing it, and then you can work on your computer without having anything change. Built into the panel is this unified menu. So the unified menu has these commonly used apps. We've got a locker, the owner, home, whiteboard, capture, annotate, source, screen share. This is a button you'll never have to use because the district went with the screen beams, and that's how you're going to connect your computer. And then the recent apps, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these. I wanted to bring this up because to connect your computer, you have to bring up the unified menu. So to connect your computer wirelessly, there's a few steps you have to go through. The first is on this panel itself, you're going to want to bring up the unified menu, which is also located on the sides. I can reach it from here, the bottom over here, and I can also come over to this side of the panel. So no matter where you're presenting from, you can get to this unified menu. But to connect your computer wirelessly, the first thing you're going to want to do is change sources. So you press the unified menu, hit source, and you're going to want to go to HDMI 2. And when you go to HDMI 2, you're going to see this landscape image here. And there's going to be a display name. Each panel in your school is going to have a different display name. So when you're on here and you want to connect your computer, make sure you know which panel you want to connect to. So that's what you do on the panel. Then on your laptop, you're going to hit the Windows and the K button. And that's going to bring up a menu that looks like this. On this menu, you're going to look for the display name of your panel, click on it, and if it's the first time you're connecting, it's going to ask you to put in a 4-digit PIN. That PIN number will automatically appear on the panel itself. Once you've typed that in once, you'll be able to connect without having to type that in again to that panel. After you've connected, you'll see that your desktop is being projected on the panel, but there's one more thing you have to do on your computer, and that is click this little box down here that says allow mouse, keyboard, touch, and pen input from this device. If you don't click that, you won't be able to touch and use the panel. This will just be a big giant computer monitor. So make sure that is clicked. So again, quickly again, source on the panel, go to HDMI 2, then on your computer, you're going to want to hit Windows K, which brings up this menu. Click on your panel's display name, and then make sure that box is checked. And that's how you can connect wirelessly. Then you have full control of the panel just with your finger. If you're going to connect hardwired, all the panels will come with a USB touch cord and an HDMI cord, and these will be bound together, so you won't have to, they won't be separated, they stay together. And if you want to connect hardwired, you're going to want to plug those into this front, these front inputs here. When you do connect hardwired, you'll plug it into your computer, and when you hit source, a new source will pop up on here, and it'll be just HDMI if you're plugged into the front panel. Once you've clicked on that, everything should work. If you've got both these cords plugged in, the visual and the touch will work directly. You won't have to go through any other steps. So again, you're plugging those in the front. Those cords come with the panel itself, and these are the inputs you're going to put into HDMI and the touch. All right, so that is connecting wirelessly and hardwired. If you were co-teaching or you had a guest speaker coming in, you could connect one computer wirelessly and one computer hardwired, and then you could switch back and forth between those two. But you can't have two computers connected wirelessly at the same time. And if you want to reconnect a new computer wirelessly, make sure you disconnect your computer first and then connect the next one. But now I'm going to go over some of the built-in apps of the panel. So when you hit the unified menu, you've got certain apps that show up all the time, but there are other apps that are on the panel itself, and you can get to those by opening the unified menu and going to the locker. And the locker is going to bring up a menu like this. Most of these apps you're probably not going to use, but there are a couple in here that I'll talk about a little bit, and that's the spinner and the timer app, which can be useful. You can also access the settings in the locker. And when you go into settings, you can adjust the volume, the brightness, or the contrast of your panel directly. Next, we'll go over the different essential apps that are built into the panel, and that includes the whiteboard, capture app, annotate, the spinner, and the timer tools. First one we'll talk about is the whiteboard. So you can get to the whiteboard by hitting the unified menu, clicking on whiteboard, and this will bring up an endless canvas here. So think of this like a poster board. You can draw on this, you can bring in images. There are also some pre-built tools on here, including rulers. So on these, you can bring up a ruler like this. There is a pinch and zoom capability on the whiteboard, so you can make these bigger and smaller, and you can do this with any sort of image that you bring in. There are also some pre-built backgrounds that you can add to this. So hitting this little pound sign or hashtag sign, you can click on one of the backgrounds and you can bring up something like graph paper. And again, I can pinch and zoom to change the size of the squares of my graph paper too. You can also change the color of the background that you'd like. If you want to bring up a blue background or whatever works best for you, that capability is also built in. Another button on here is the gallery tools. It's a little mountain range here. If you press that, there are some pre-built charts and templates in here. So things from tables to hundreds chart to periodic table to mind maps, lots of pre-built options in here. But you can also take pictures and bring them into this area too, under gallery. So if you take a screenshot, it will be saved in here, and you can do screenshots by pressing the unified menu and hitting this capture app. So right now I'm going to go back to my presentation and say I want to take a picture of just the Promethean panel that I have on here. I want to bring that into my whiteboard activity. I could do that with an Internet Explorer also. So if I hit capture, it's going to take a screenshot of my entire screen. And then I can take that whole thing, or I can crop it just by dragging one of the handles. I can take that screenshot, I hit done, and then open in whiteboard. It's going to bring that picture directly into the whiteboard that I was working on. I can squeeze or expand to make the image as big or as small as I want. And now, when I took that picture, it's also saved to this panel forever. So I can bring it up again by clicking my gallery here, and instead of looking at the charts and templates, I hit gallery, and that picture I took will be in there, and I can bring that up again whenever I want. If we go back now, the next app we'll talk about, this is the capture app we just went over, is the annotate app. And annotate kind of works like transparency would. Whatever is on the screen, if I click annotate, brings up this little menu which floats on the screen and I can move wherever I want. But now I can write on whatever is on the screen. So I could circle different words in this article if I wanted, or underline, or whatever. You can draw on whatever's on the screen with annotate. The next tool is the spinner app. The spinner app is not going to be on your unified menu. It's going to be within the locker. So if I hit locker, it brings up my menu, and then I can hit spinner, and it's going to bring up a little floating spinner app right here. This spinner I can make full screen because there's too much going on in this, so I just want to focus on that spinner app. With this, I can change and create my own spinners. It sort of replaces popsicle sticks if you use those to call in students. I can hit this little drop-down menu here, and I can click Create New. I can add a title, and I can type in my whole class roster, say period 1, put all my students in there, save that, and then it's going to be saved to your panel forever. And you can bring up period 1, you can bring up period 3. If you just create it, it'll be there, and you can add up to 44 different items or categories on the spinner each time. And within the spinner, there are a couple different settings. There's select item once option, so this means if I spun this and it landed on orange, that means when I spin it again, it's not going to land on orange. if I take that off, then it could land on anything at any point. You can also add up to 4 spinners at a time by hitting this little plus sign underneath the spinners. So up to 4 spinners, you could do something like, you spin it and it says, Billy has to write a poem about dogs doing something like that. To close these out, there's a little X underneath each of them. Just click on each of those and they'll disappear. And the final app I'll talk about is the timer app. It's very similar to the spinner, but like its name gives away, it is a timer. So if I click that, again, I have to go into my locker to get to the timer app. Pull that up. It's going to be another little app that floats on top of whatever's on my screen that I can move around, or I can go to full screen and focus just on that timer. So within the timer, you can change to exactly how many minutes and seconds you want the timer to count down from. You can also change the timer to a stopwatch if you wanted to time, or if you just wanted another clock in the room, you can do that. You can also change all of these from digital to analog and back again. And as similar to the spinner app, you can have up to 4 timers on screen at once. So if you were timing multiple groups, you could have each one a different color. Hit the X underneath to close all of those out. Sorry, I hit the wrong one. So that's a quick rundown of the different things that are built in the panel, how to connect to it, how to clean it. If any of you should have any questions, there are also some resources on Schoology, like one-pagers and short 2-minute videos of each of those apps. But you can also always reach out to me if you have any questions. And I do have an LCPS email address. It is jacob.worth@lcps.org. Please let me know if you have any questions, and good luck with your panels.